Hello, I've listened to the Quran and taken notes. I just want to talk about it, about my findings, answer a couple controversial questions and statements that I think many people believe, and my thoughts about it and more. So, first, I want to show my sources, which I will put a photo up here, here, and one here. Those are the two videos. And Google. I've searched up some specific words, and I will link my document in the description. So first, I want to talk about the book's ethics of warfare and violence. The popular controversy is that a lot of people point to certain verses that says that the Quran encourages violence and fighting against non-Muslims. And my answer to that is that the verses that encourage violence, like 9:5, are all geared towards already violent people, towards people that actively seek to harm Muslims, hate the religion, and break peace treaties. The book states multiple times that if a non-believer ceases their attack, that Muslims should never continue the conflict, and that Allah does not like transgressors. Which means, for example, when a person hits you, you can only hit them once. You can't hit them twice. And for context, these verses came to be after years of oppression, attacks, and torture, and more. As a way of protection for the Muslims. Even when a people is at conflict with Muslims, it says to allow refuge for the innocent civilians from those people. The Quran says to allow the innocent from those people that are oppressing them. If they seek refuge among Muslims, they should allow it. And again, I want to say, the Quran is very much a tooth for a tooth type of book. But even when a Muslim gets in a situation that would allow them to fight back, or be allowed to have a reaction similar to that they received, Allah suggests that one should always be patient and show mercy. So you should forgive people, is what it says, but you're allowed to fight back when necessary. The second controversy, which a lot of people might have against the Islamic belief, is about the status and rights of women. People sometimes bring up verses that seem to treat men and women differently, like in marriage, inheritance, and equal status. My first impression is that they almost have the same amount of rights. What I've come to understand is that they are very traditional gender roles established. Like the man should take care of the house, economy, and the family's needs, while the woman should take care of the children, stay at home, and generally just be a housewife. Though back in the day, women could still run shops, and it's not needed to just stay home. You can still provide and do that stuff, but it's their role to be like that, is what I have understood from the book. About married men being allowed to hit their wives, it's actually a 3-step process where when a man senses discourse in the relationship, like when the woman isn't doing her part, like she's just lazy, or like she isn't doing her womanly duties, or she is nagging him, or more, he should first talk to her about it and tell her stop doing it, stop. If that fails, you should forsake her in bed and not sleep in the same bed as her. And lastly, the man is prompted to lightly hit his wife. Though I will also add that women are not allowed to hit their husbands and are instructed to seek outside help instead, which is maybe bad. Both genders are allowed to divorce each other, but only with reasonable reason, like infidelity or a large personal discord, large problem between the two. Inheritance is heavily sided for men, like it's just like that, with women getting half of what men get. But men are instructed to be the sole provider for the women, house and family, which is actually why I think it makes sense, because in a society where the man provides for the women, they need more resources to be able to provide. But in a world where that isn't the case, then both should have their fair share. Both men and women need to cover their skin. Specifically where and what to cover hasn't entirely been established. Though women need to cover the parts of their body where jewelry, ornaments, or other commonly decoratory parts will be placed, like the neck, the hair they had, apparently, because that's why. From what I understood from the Quran, is that it's only the parts where jewelry would be placed. Neither are the women allowed to intentionally make movements to make sound of the ornaments, like jumping around to make the chain jingle. And the best for last. Men can marry up to 4 wives, but women can't. Why is that okay? Like what? Here's my answer. If a woman were to have multiple husbands and get pregnant, the father to the child would be unknown, which could lead to a split in the family. If the man has multiple wives, they know who the father is, and they know the parents to that child. This polygyny, a man having multiple wives, was originated as a measure to help widows and orphans during wartime, so as to not leave them without support in a patriarchal society. Though in today's world I see no need for this tradition personally, because in this type of society that we live in, I don't think it's necessary to have that. The third controversy: some may ask why there seem to be changes in rules within the Quran, and what that means for consistency. My answer: the Quran itself mentions the idea in 2:106. We do not abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, except that we bring forth one better than it or similar to it. That was the verse. Some examples include the direction of prayer, which changed from Jerusalem to Kaaba. Gradual steps on alcohol, from a warning to it, like don't drink too much, to then flat out banning it. You never drink any of it, but first you were allowed a little bit. Now you're nothing. I want to note that scholars note that nashki, changing rules, nashki, applies to certain legal ruling adapting to new circumstances, not core beliefs. So the core beliefs stay the same, but some legal rulings change. There are debates among scholars about exactly which verses and how many are involved. The text of the Quran says the same. The application of specific commands, how to follow the rules, can be changed. Not the rules themselves, is what I understand. To me, this reads as practical guidance given step by step to a developing community, rather than one size fits all from day one, which is smart, in my opinion, but that also means that the Quran isn't a one-to-one of the original, which is true. It's not a one-to-one to the absolute first one that was written, which many Muslims also claim. The fourth and final controversy is interpretation of violence and continuous passages. Certain verses get quoted a lot online or in debates, often as proof that the Quran is inherently violent or intolerant, especially when pulled out by themselves, like without context. What I need to say then, the verses talking about fighting are referring to events during the Prophet's time, like particular battles, broken treaties, or active persecution, rather than timeless commands for all situations. Scholars usually stress, and me, to read the full surah or the verses right before and after. The context is very much needed, and the historical asbab al-sulu, I don't know, the reasons for revelation in English. For example, general principles like no compulsion in religion, 256, and kindness towards non-hostile people, 68. Sit alongside the specific wartime instructions. I see much online that many people pick up certain verses and just say this is what all Muslims think. But no, it's not like that. It's a tooth for a tooth. If you are kind to them, they need to be kind to you. And if they aren't kind to you, then they are not real Muslims. They're just bad people. A common issue today, as I just said, is decontextualization. Taking one strong sounding line without the conditions or limits around it. Extremist group often ignore broader framework and historical setting, which mainstream interpretations reject, as they should. I want to also move to the finish line here. Here are some things I found funny, weird or bad about the Quran on top of my head. I have a script here, but when I wrote the script, it was on top of my head. The first one is, in paradise, there's going to be eternally youthful boys moving about and bringing you wine with no alcohol in it, but just wine. I think that's hella sus and weird. Why would it be eternally young boys bringing you wine in paradise? And they're beautiful like scattered pearls. Nah, skip that. Also, hell is described a lot through the book. It also repeats itself a lot. For example, Pharaoh's encounter is talked about more than 7 times. It just repeats and repeats and repeats with different details, but it repeats and repeats. And I know it's a religious book and you should glaze God, like you should talk about his abilities and all that and what he can do and what the people he's going to punish, and yes, but it's so much. You can't go 2 sentences without God is indeed the most powerful, God is indeed the most, oh yes, I know, and then it goes on like a page long monologue about God is the best here. He created everything. He created everything. He's gonna punish them in hell and this and this. Yes, okay. I would say that half the Quran can be taken away, and the core beliefs would stay the same. Like the core message and everything it needs to say would stay. It also says that Christians are Muslims' closest friends and sometimes ally. They can be friends with them because of their humble and God-fearing monks and priests. On the other hand, are Jews one of the furthest from being a friend to Muslims. But of course, no blind hostility. If someone is kind to you, you should be kind to them. When the enemies of Allah are seized, like taken into custody or died, in the end, everyone is gonna die. And then God is going to revive people. That's how it also described it. When the enemies of Allah is seized and lined up before the fire, hell, their eyes, hearing, and skin will bear witness to them. Their eyes will literally speak to them. Their hearing, like the ability to hear, will speak to them, which very weird. Picture that. Your eyes are talking to you. Your hearing is talking to you. Creepy. And lastly, the book shows Allah becoming extremely angry when people say Jesus is the Son of God. This made Allah so mad that he almost destroyed the earth. Like it described volcanoes erupting, the ground shaking, the sky becoming dark. Like he almost ended humanity there. Because someone compared and actually believed a human being connected to God. In the book it said that diminish God and put him on the same plane as humans. And my closing thoughts of the Quran and Islam, after listening to the entire book, made me realize that many of the social media posts we see about Muslims this, Islam that, bad people this, are mostly taken out of context. Maybe not the posts, but the quotes from the Quran were meant to spread hate. Just that. Still, I don't agree entirely with the religion, but I've learned a lot of useful information about what a fourth of the world believe in. And I hope and want you here, to read or listen to it also, and do your research before you form a hard opinion about anything. Do your research. Read the book. If you don't like Muslims, read the book. Please.